Across 32 episodes focusing on the CISO experience, one pattern cuts through everything. The role stopped being about protecting networks and started being about protecting the business. CISOs stopped being firefighters and started becoming enterprise strategists. But the path wasn't smooth. It was messy, terrifying, and often lonely. And the shift happened fast, fundamentally changing what success looks like. What followed was not a clean transition, but a period defined by uncertainty, misalignment, and quiet pressure. 2020 to 2021, the ambiguity years. The CISO role was often described as nebulous. Organizations had cybersecurity leaders in place, but there was little shared understanding of what the role was meant to accomplish or how it should influence decisions. CISOs carried significant responsibility without matching authority, and many found themselves repeatedly explaining not just security issues, but the purpose of their role itself. The challenge during this period was not managing threats. It was earning a seat at the table where business decisions were made. CISOs spent these years building relationships with executive leadership, learning how to translate security concepts into business impact. Technical expertise was assumed. The real differentiator was the ability to help a CFO or COO understand how cybersecurity affected their priorities, not just the organization in abstract terms. Fear ran quietly beneath the surface. Not fear of breaches, but fear of pushing for programs without executive backing, fear of budget denials, and fear of being seen as the person who always said no. Managing that fear while building credibility and confidence with leadership became as important as managing risk itself. That unresolved tension set the conditions for what came next. To move forward, CISOs had to stop waiting for clarity and start creating it. 2022 to 2023, the human-AI moment. During this period, the conversation changed. CISOs who made progress stopped trying to explain cybersecurity in technical terms and started building real relationships with executives. The work shifted from presenting controls and threats to having meaningful conversations about how security affected each leader's area of responsibility. This became an era of translation. Security concerns had to be reframed in business language for stakeholders who often viewed cybersecurity as a cost rather than a strategic enabler. Success depended less on technical depth and more on understanding how the business actually operated. As CISOs deepened their engagement with the business, the limits of purely human scale became impossible to ignore. At the same time, AI stopped being theoretical. CISOs began to talk seriously about human and machine collaboration, not replacement. The focus moved toward using automation to support judgment, not eliminate it. This thinking aligned naturally with the growing adoption of permit by exception approaches. Instead of allowing everything except known threats, security leaders advocated for denying by default and explicitly permitting what the business needed. This shift was not just technical, it was philosophical. To make it work, CISOs had to understand business processes deeply enough to know what should be allowed, when, and why. Collaboration across departments became non-negotiable. Effective security programs could no longer be built in isolation, pushing CISOs out of the Security Operations Center and into business strategy discussions across the organization. 2024 to 2025, managing risk instead of chasing threats. The most recent period reveals a structural shift rather than a semantic one. CISOs increasingly stop chasing individual threats and start managing risk as an operational discipline. This reframes the role from reactive defense to deliberate prioritization. Organizations with more mature programs begin to see CISOs as risk leaders, not just IT executives. The conversation moves away from acquiring better tools and toward building better risk operations. That shift requires different skills: sustained collaboration across business units, continuous education of executive leadership, and the confidence to draw clear boundaries when necessary. CISOs are now expected to think like photographers, choosing where to focus within a complex scene. Not everything can be secured equally. Effective leadership requires understanding what matters most to the business, where risk tolerance truly lies, and how to allocate limited resources accordingly. This creative judgment is what many conversations describe as the art of possible. As the role becomes clearer, pressure increases. Regulatory demands grow more complex. Executive expectations rise. The cost of failure becomes steeper, both reputationally and legally. Yet during a 2025 RSAC conversation with Tim Brown, a pivotal question was raised. Why should CISOs still say yes to this role? The answer emerged naturally. For all the pressure and ambiguity, the role now carries genuine influence over business strategy, something that simply was not true 5 years earlier. Looking across these shifts together, a clear pattern emerges. What actually changed? 3 things redefined what CISOs do. Business resilience over security posture. The goal isn't perfect security. It's maintaining operational efficiency while managing acceptable risk. Small and medium enterprises especially need security that doesn't break business processes. Continuous learning over static expertise. The best CISOs build environments where teams can openly discuss challenges and adapt strategies based on evolving risks. Technical knowledge depreciates fast. Learning capability doesn't. Relationship building over technical implementation. In-person interactions at conferences matter, not for the keynotes, but for the feedback loops with customers and peers. The CISO who understands community is more effective than the one who understands only technology. The through line. Why this matters beyond security. Here's what connects 2020 to 2025. The best CISOs stopped waiting for their role to be understood and started defining it themselves. They built confidence in their teams through continuous learning. They fostered collaboration across organizational silos. They managed their own fear while helping executives understand cybersecurity's business impact. A photographer who only knows cameras misses the story. A musician who only knows theory misses the emotion. A CISO who only knows security misses the business. The role still carries immense pressure. Personal liability hasn't decreased. If anything, it's intensified. But CISOs who embrace relationship building articulate business value clearly and operate from a risk management framework rather than a purely defensive posture are reshaping what this role means. The CISO evolution mirrors something I've noticed across music, photography, and technology. The specialists who thrive are the ones who connect their domain expertise to broader human needs. The role certainly hasn't gotten easier, it's gotten more interesting. CISOs who embrace that complexity, who see challenges as opportunities for innovation rather than obstacles, are the ones shaping what security leadership will look like in 2026 and beyond. The question isn't whether the CISO role will keep changing, it's whether security leaders will change with it. No one articulated this evolution more clearly or earlier than the person who helped define the role in the first place. Looking back to foresee the future, the world's first CISO on how the role changed and where it's headed. Back in 2020, Sean had the privilege of a deep conversation with the late Steve Katz, often referred to as the world's first CISO. He frequently emphasized that the CISO role was never intended to be purely technical. From the very beginning, he saw it as a business risk advisory function, one designed to help leaders make informed decisions rather than promise perfect protection. Over time, he recognized how expectations accumulated around a single role, eventually asking more of one person than could realistically be delivered. Looking ahead, Steve believed the role would continue to evolve toward a clearer separation of responsibilities. Risk communication, executive engagement, and strategic judgment on one side, security technology execution on the other. In his view, the future of the role was not about eliminating uncertainty, but about building credibility, clarity, and trust in how risk is understood and managed. Steve's perspective does not predict the future so much as frame it. What this means for 2026. Looking ahead, the CISO role will continue to evolve, but not by expanding endlessly. The shift is toward maturity and structure. Cybersecurity is increasingly integrated into overall business strategy, not as a compliance exercise, but as a core enabler of resilience and informed decision-making. Organizations are beginning to recognize security leadership as a coordinated function, rather than expecting a single individual to carry technical, legal, and business accountability alone. This evolution places greater emphasis on risk management, judgment, and adaptability. As distributed work remains common and technology stacks grow more complex, CSOs are required to rethink traditional security models and align protection efforts with how the business actually operates. Agility matters, but so does clarity around what truly warrants attention and investment. As AI becomes more pervasive across both business and security programs, its role will be to support focus and prioritization, not to replace human judgment. The human element becomes more important, not less. Technology can surface signals and patterns, but is less effective at fully assessing impact, context, or consequence. The successful CISO of 2026 will be defined less by control and more by trust. This is a leader who understands technology, but more importantly, can navigate the intersection of business priorities and security risk, advise clearly, communicate honestly, and help the organization respond effectively when things go wrong. Join the conversation. Has the CISO role at your organization shifted from technical gatekeeper to business enabler, or are we still fighting that battle? For developers, how do you see your role in supporting the evolving responsibilities of CISOs, especially as AI becomes more integrated into security measures? For security professionals, what skills do you think will be essential for CISOs in 2026, particularly in fostering human-AI collaboration? For business leaders, how can you better support your CISO in aligning security with business objectives while leveraging AI? For vendors, what solutions are you developing to address the anticipated challenges CISOs will face in the coming years, especially concerning the human element in security? Sean would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Drop a comment below or tag us in your posts. What's your perspective on this story? Want to share it with Sean on a podcast? Let him know. About Studio C60. We help cybersecurity startups build trust-based marketing and go-to-market strategies grounded in deep product understanding and real buyer insights. With hundreds of products brought to market and deep connections in the CISO community, we know what security leaders value in vendors. Learn more at studioc60.com. About Sean Martin. Sean Martin is a lifelong musician and the host of the Music Evolves podcast, a career technologist, cybersecurity professional, and host of the Redefining Cybersecurity podcast, and is also the co-host of the On Location Event Coverage podcast. These shows are all part of ITSP Magazine, which he co-founded with his good friend Marco Ciappelli, to explore and discuss topics at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Would you like Sean to work with you on a topic/series to help you tell your story? Visit his services page to learn more. seanmartin.com/services. Want to connect with Sean and Marco on location at an event or conference near you? See where they will be next. itspmagazine.com/onlocation. To learn more about Sean, visit his personal website, seanmartin.com.